we need to look at these, first of all, look at folks, especially in Japan with all this stuff going on, and just see how, first, of course, how fragile life is and how easy it can be wiped out, but then to realize how precious life is. I saw this one guy, man, he was standing there with his wife and his teenage son, and may have had a young daughter, I can't remember, but he said he lost everything. He said, we're starting at zero. We're building back from zero. Think about that. We sit in this country, in this nation, in this community, especially as African Americans, sitting around often, waiting for a handout, waiting for help, and complaining because we don't get it, and always having an excuse for why things aren't working out right. We're not paying our bills. We're doing this, we're doing that. Yet we're blowing our money on alcohol. We're blowing our money on weed. We're blowing our money on the lottery, on gambling, and what our entertainment, or buying things that we can't afford. We're blowing it, and then we're finding other reasons why. Other things to blame it on. This guy had built up a life for himself and his family, had lost everything in a matter of minutes, and said, we're at zero right now, and we're building ourselves back from zero. We can't complain about anything, man. Look at those people over there. This is their second, they're the only nation on this planet that a nuclear bomb has ever been exploded on, and not just one, two. They built themselves back to be one of the most powerful, advanced nations on this planet. And now this man, again, a second time, in the lifetime even of his father, a disaster of that magnitude, saying, we're at zero right now, we're going to build ourselves back up. And we should think about that. Wherever you are, wherever your situation is, however jacked up it might be, no savings, no investments, no job, no addictions, family situation jacked up, kids, whatever your situation is right now, look at it as zero, and you're going to start right now and make it work. Just figure it out. If I say, well, Martin, how am I don't know how. Everybody's situation is different. That tsunami situation, their situation is unique. All of our situations are unique. You just have to sit down and determine that you're not going to allow this situation to get you down. That the situation that you may have inherited from your family, or from the family before that, or from the family before that, whatever situation you're in right now, whoever got you into it, whether it was yourself or somebody else, this is zero. Figure it out. Go to school. Find out if you can go to school. See, we find ourselves qualifying for so many handouts often, and fighting for so many benefits, things that are going to be given to us. We need to look for the handout that is going to help us out of this mess that we're in. Okay? like instead of just looking for somebody, just look for the shovel. Look for that kind of handout. Go to school. Get an education. Man, I was in school, man. As many of you know, I've been back in school. I have one class, and I'll have my degree. But it's taken me like a lot of years. I've been going to school since 1977, night school, and I was in the Air Force as a young airman stationed at Wright Pat. But not really serious, just going, quitting, going, and serious, getting out. And then when I got out of the military, just playing around the GI Bill. I was just in the GI Bill like a part-time job. I wasn't concerned with the education. I wasn't thinking then. I was just needing some extra cash. I was going to school to get that check. And then finally, when after the GI Bill was run out, years later, now I'm back in school paying for it myself. But I see the value in the education, even if it's just the idea of education itself and the message, the educational message that it gives to my children. How important education is. But I've gotten very serious, and what I've seen in school especially, is even the African Americans in school, too often, we don't make it. I mean, I'm not saying nobody does, but I'm saying as a whole, as a percentage, we just don't make it. I've been in this algebra class this last quarter. We had a few African Americans in there, and me, of course. And one brother that sat in front of me, he ended up dropping the class. He would come to school. First, he wouldn't come to all the classes. And then when he did come, he was always borrowing a pencil from me. Now, how do you come and paper? How do you come to a math class, an algebra class, with no pencil and no paper? African American. Now don't get me wrong, because the girl sitting next to me, African American woman, And this girl, I believe, had the highest score in the class. So I mean, it's not all of us, but it's too many of us. And if we have an opportunity to go to school, if we have an opportunity, if somebody hands us a shovel, we have to use that shovel. We have to do whatever it takes to get out of this mess that we're in. We cannot afford to just, oh, well, I can't make it, I'm going to quit. Okay, another African American in the same class. Brother. Cool brother. Quit. Now, I understand. He said he wasn't ready for this class. He wasn't ready for this class. And he was going to take, a developmental class to get ready, but he didn't do it. I saw him just the other day. It was the day of my final. I could tell by the look on his face. He hadn't pursued. He quit and just hadn't continued, hadn't pursued. We can't afford to be that way. At this particular place in our nation where jobs are jacked up, economy's jacked up, many people are out of work, this is the opportunity we have. The playing field has been leveled more to a place where we're on more level ground, and we have a running start, just like everybody else. It's no time to lay down, no time to sit down. I was reading an article in the paper yesterday about joblessness. Has a long-term joblessness, it's been determined by shrinks, has a psychological effect on people who've been unemployed for an extended amount of time. And they observed 6,000 people that were unemployed and recognized that in the course of 9 months, their minds have changed, their psyche has changed. It has adjusted their personality and their traits to where they're not as motivated as they would have been when they were working, that they're even sleeping later and later and getting up later in the day. So the joblessness has caused a mind change of these, and these are white folks, and this is everybody. It's now, then you look at the African Americans in this nation and the condition that we have lived under in this nation as a people, as far as the job situation, not being able to get the same jobs and being unfairly treated, and then finally having an affirmative action to make them give you a job, and then being resented by the people that are forced to give you these jobs. There's been a mindset. You had generations and generations of folks that have been on government assistance, have been on welfare, and not been working. Now these shrinks have determined that 9 months of joblessness has created a particular mindset of negativity, of sort of slothfulness, and people even getting up later and later and later in the day. What about generations of people that have been in a cycle of joblessness, in a cycle of this negativity? If this is the impact of 9 months, what do you think the impact of 2 or 3 generations has been on a people? So I've seen a debate recently, in this city as far as the tests for the firemen and the policemen. And talking about dumbing down the test because enough African Americans aren't passing that test. Man, it has really aggravated the heck out of me. Because to me, it sort of gives an arrogant feeling to the people that have passed the test, that are not African American, that they're gonna dumb down this test so that they can pass. I've seen it. I've seen them on the internet. I've seen them making comments. And even that's a misunderstanding, but they enjoy it. When has there not been misunderstandings? The reality is the African Americans the only African Americans that are applying for those jobs, they've opened up the floodgates, opened up the doors to the police and the firemen's test because they want more African Americans. The only ones that are applying are the ones that have been jobless, the ones that have no jobs. The African Americans that have a choice, African Americans that have options, African Americans that are intelligent, most African Americans don't want to be police or firemen, so they're not the ones that are taking these tests. The people that are taking the test are the people that have been jobless, the people that are without, the people that are not already working, and so they're forced to take this policeman fireman test because they have no other options. And so there's a mindset of people. Now the white folks that have no other options, because this isn't a race thing. There are black folks that have no other options. There are white folks that have no other options. But when the police and the fire department say that they want more African Americans, the white folks that have no option are not going to be applying for this test because the test is only open to bring in more black folks. So you have black folks that have the ability to pass this test. You have white folks that have the ability to pass this test, but the white folks aren't even applying to take the test because the test has been advertised that we need more African Americans. So the only folks that are applying to these tests, for the most part, are African Americans that are already jobless. And I promise you, if they had options, they wouldn't be vying to be policemen or firemen from the get-go. So, I mean, this, you can tell that little aggravates me a bit. I've seen it on the internet. I've commented with a couple of them and then just let it go because I was getting too ticked off. It's easy to get sucked into that argument and get off your course, like I'm getting right now, just a little bit. But anyway, this is the time. And so we need to do what it is that we need to do to get what we need. And don't be satisfied. So if you've taken that test to be a policeman or a fireman, and you failed it, can you take it again? I know this is this math class now. The reason it's taken me all these years to get my degree. I mean, I've taken all these classes, and one thing that I've always had a problem with all through junior high school and high school and all was like the algebra and the geometry and all that stuff. So it's like I put them off. That's what I put off, was this necessary college algebra class that I needed for this degree at the local college. But I came to the point where there's nothing else for me to take but this class, this algebra class. Now I could have what they call tested out, or took a test and see where I placed, and that's the class I would have to take, before taking this algebra class. But what I did instead, now this was on me, and I'm paying for it. I went to go take those developmental classes in mathematics. And I'm smarter than, I probably could have placed somewhere in the middle there. But I went to the first mathematics developmental class and took that. Now I'm sitting in this class the first day and they're saying, okay, a comma goes here and a dot. I almost got so offended I almost just got up and got out of that class because this is ridiculous. But I decided sort of that I'm just going to, I don't know where I missed and what I missed growing up, but I was determined that I'm going to pass these classes, I'm going to get my degree. So I started with the first developmental class. It wasn't even a grade in that class. It was a pass or fail or whatever. So I passed that class. Then I took the next developmental class, and I got an A in that class. Took the next developmental class, got an A in that class. Then I took the algebra class, which I've just finished a couple days ago. We got a B in that class, a little bit more difficult. That was elementary algebra. Next quarter, I'm taking intermediate algebra, which starts in about 9 days, and then I'll be taking my college algebra class, and I'll be done. But what I'm telling you, it was that serious for me. Now, I didn't have to take this for a job, because I have a secure job, and I'm a little too old to be worrying about all that. But to me, it was just something that I needed to do, to show my son, who's already in college, to show my daughter, who's 5, how the importance and the value of an education, that even at this age, I'm going to persevere and I'm not going to quit. Now that's just for me, the lesson I'm trying to teach my kids. Some of you out there, some of us out here need this just so we will be well in the future of our lives, okay? So I'm telling you, when I say figure it out, figure it out. This was the way I figured it out. Whatever your unique situation is, you figure it out. I saw these guys in Japan again, the tsunami. I saw this video footage of this, when it hit that quick, man, it was like the water was at their feet. Some of them got up into this building. They're looking out over the balcony. There was this woman, she was on top she was in a tree. And there was another man, he was on top of a garage or something, and there was another guy, him and his 2 sons were on top of a car. And they were going to be swept away by these big old waves coming in. Next thing you know, the people inside the building got a hose, a water hose, threw it to the lady first. She wrapped herself around it. They were able in time to pull her and get her into this house. They threw this hose to this man and eventually got him into the house. With these kids, the man that was standing on the car with his 2 sons, each person got out of this house, got out of even their own sanctuary, their own safety. They made a human chain, person by person by person, all the way to this man with his kids. And they took one of the boys. This guy passed the boy to this man. This man took the boy, passing this man. They made a human chain and got those 2 boys and their father to safety, and then pulled themselves up and got themselves to safety. They found their way. They figured it out. I'm telling you, defeat is no option. And this time in our nation, it is the time to make